The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Fast am I, good afternoon. Welcome to Mannin Line on Max Radio. Open line today. Tomorrow it's all about Russian with Joan Watterson and Michelle Hayward. The constituency MHKs for Russian on Mannin Line. And if you have anything you'd like to put to them, if you don't want to take potluck tomorrow, by all means, stick it in as an email at manninline@manxradio.com or call the answer phone on 682 631. In the meantime, I wonder whether it is time to bring up the subject of the steam packet again. We understand the steam packet has the arrow on to help with freight and getting the Manxman back on track due to tidal restrictions. Steam packet's hoping to have quick turnarounds with Manxman, but should they get the papers on the Heysham 1 a.m. departure if they're at the port on time? Now, all cabins provided with free bottled water. All lounges have free bottled water. The pet lounge, if requested, is free from the information desk. Only areas are the eatery and coffee shop where passengers pay for water. So, if you've been on the Manxman recently, I just wonder what your impressions are. Obviously, it is a new boat. It's a fairly new boat now because it's been around for a while. But the story about there being no water on board, is there free bottled water available? Do you expect free bottled water? And obviously the what's happening, is the Wi-Fi working? I was on a couple of weeks ago, the Wi-Fi wasn't working. Now it is a new boat, but you would have thought that's one of the things in 21st century Isle of Man, that the Wi-Fi would be working properly. Is it working for you? This is not to go at anybody on board. They're all obviously dealing with what they're dealing with, but really it's a brand new boat, and you would have thought in the time that it took the Korean to build it, we could have planned this a little better. And obviously the situation with the marine pods in Douglas Harbour is kind of after the event as well. But you got any thoughts on the steam packet? By all means, get in touch. You want to give them a bouquet, by the way, by all means do. I mean, one thing you will say about the car deck, it's spotless, isn't it? I mean, it's very, very clean and very quiet. They've obviously put a lot of acoustic baffles around the car deck, so it's a lot quieter than it was. Are you happy with the lifts, these electric doors that go everywhere now? Any thoughts? Bouquets or brickbats, steam packet, text, email, call and WhatsApp. And what do you think of this story of Beach Buddies at the weekend? They found 50 hypodermic syringes in a Marks & Spencer plastic bag in a beachside waste bin. Now, what sort of clown would do that? Well, I'm obviously a criminal, because you wouldn't... Why would anybody think that putting syringes onto a beach litter bin would be anything than a ludicrous idea? Bill Dale said, it's not careless, this is irresponsible. It is unacceptable, and surely somebody is going to know. Somebody knows who did this and who would think of doing that. And we'll see. The police have been informed about it. Inquiries have focused on a label that was found inside the plastic bag with the name and address of a person. So not only are they a little clueless, but more than a little careless, and no doubt will be expecting a hand on the door, if not on their shoulder. But by all means, do get in touch. You heard on the news this public meeting is on tonight in Andreas, and this exciting development for Andreas Airfield. This is a development that could bring 25% of the energy for the Isle of Man from Andreas. Could be one of the hubs of the Isle of Man. This is the Andreas EIP Community Conversation, and it's on tonight. They'd love to see you if you want to nip along Wednesday 29th tonight, Andreas Community Hall, 7:30. Of course, we'll have a Manx Radio microphone there, but if you want to go and find out what anaerobic digestion is, they're putting ground-mounted solar photovoltaics, solar panels to you and me, onshore wind technology. Well, it's going to be a wind turbine, depends how big, how many perhaps, and battery storage as well. And more to the point, how on earth are they going to get that amount of electricity? I would say the nearest connector is going to be the old Ramsey power station. So we'll find out tonight. If you want to nip along tonight, Andreas Community Hall, they'd love to see you there. David's on now. Hi, David.
Hi, Andy. Just an observation of what's happening next year at the Northwest 200. It's on between the 6th and the 11th of May, and a load of us were talking yesterday, and we thought we'd go over next year and give it a bit of support, because it's a few years since we've been. And last time I went on the steam packet, took my car, and it was a package deal, and you got the hotel and everything thrown in. So I thought, I'll go down today, and I've just come from there, and I've asked, is there anything happening next year for the Northwest? No. Okay. What about taking my car and going to Belfast for either on the 6th or beforehand? The earliest ferry to Belfast from here is the 18th of May.
18th of May? What use is that?
Well, exactly. So I said, how do the competitors get the bikes and machinery and, mechanics and everybody over there? Oh, she said, all you need to do is go to Heysham or go to Liverpool, and then travel from Heysham to Scotland to Northern Ireland. I said, that's putting thousands and thousands of pounds on a journey. I said, okay, so if I get myself over there and I want to come back from Belfast, well, you can return on, I think she said, something like the following Friday after the Saturday of the Northwest. I said, okay, what about the next day? Because there was normally a ferry. When the race finished, everybody headed for Belfast and you came back that night or early in the morning. Yeah. She said, no, the return journey from Dublin the next day, which will be the Sunday, 11:45. Now we're travelling into the Eurozone, so you're going to need euros. If you're going with a pet, you're now going to have a pet passport, and you're going to have it inoculated and all sorts of medication to get your pet to Dublin and off from Dublin. It's an absolute joke for the Northwest, and the competitors of this island and all the supporters have just been totally ignored.
So, I mean, why do you think, is there just an oversight on their behalf?
Well, I think it's more than oversight. I think it's just called incompetence. I think that word would encompass it all, right? Because it happens every year. It's not as though this is a one-off race that's popped up in Ireland. And not only that, they've had some really, really bad years over there, and they nearly lost it last year. So we were all thinking, well, we'll go this year and we'll give it some support. Is there any chance of getting a comment from the steam packets? Because the girl who gave me this information, she realised that there was something wrong, and she went into the office to make sure the facts she was giving me were correct, and she come back to it, unfortunately, it's a case of Heysham or Liverpool if you want to go to Belfast. OK, right, we've heard that. Well, that's something we're going to put. I think we're speaking to Brian Thompson, the managing director, about that sometime today. So we'll put that on the list. All right, thank you.
Good to hear from you. Thanks for that. And again, the Northwest 200, as you say, David, does deserve some support. It, as you say, it nearly disappeared yesterday, and we are road racing. We're part of the road racing fraternity, so we wish them well. But as for going on the steam packet, doesn't seem like it. But anyway, we watch and we wait. Steam Packet does have its own holiday company, Steam Packet Holidays. SteampacketHolidays.com is their website. Years ago, do you remember, it used to be called Magic Holidays, but now it's Steam Packet Holidays. So we'll see what happens with that, but it seems like, well, let's call it an oversight for the moment. Thank you also to Diana, who just said Aer Lingus are ceasing their service from the 7th of January next year to the 3rd of the 3rd. As a person originally from Northern Ireland, I lived on the Isle of Man for 28 years. I'm appalled that we have no route back to our homeland, only via Dublin. Not always convenient, especially if it's an emergency. Lots of people have family reasons why they need to get back. There hasn't been a ferry service in the winter for a long time, and it is sparse at best. In let's call it targeted, shall we, Dan? In summer, it's disgusting that the government allowed this to happen. That's EasyJet that is suspending its service from Belfast from the 1st of the 1st next year until the 1st of April, and Aer Lingus ceasing their service from the 7th of the 1st to the 3rd of the 3rd. So basically January, February and March, you're kind of out of it. If this has affected, thank you, Dana, it is. Thank you for that information, Dana. If that affects you, is it something you've taken up with the providers? Obviously, we're beholden to the operators. Their planes, their staff, they do what they want. As you heard from Gary Cobb a few weeks ago, Mr. Cobb, really the first time he'll hear about anybody wanting to fly to the Isle of Man is them saying, we're going to do it, can you facilitate it? So the airport has no input into this. They've got no strategy where that's concerned. They're merely facilitators. So that's the airport. As to what can be done, well, remember the Chief Minister was in Dublin last week, and he talked about improving access. One flight a day, he said, wasn't really enough. It's going to be less than that if it's off between January and March next year. But any thoughts on this, and also any thoughts on this tremendous, I mean, it's a very big undertaking at Andreas that's happening. It'd be nice to know. And I understand the people from the Andreas conversion, the IPV FlexGen, are going to be chatting to. Phil Gorn's going to be doing a programme on the what's going to happen there. They've done planning evaluations, and they reckon Andreas Airfield is an ideal site for energy and commercial development. And they want to find out, if you're in the north of the Isle of Man, don't say you've not been told. Nip along tonight and put your coat on as well, because it's going to be nippy at Andreas Community Centre, 7:30 tonight. If you're unable, if you want to talk to the project team as well, if you nip along tonight, all the people available, and I'm sure it won't be the last word on it, but it is a very exciting prospect for the north of the... Of course, Andreas was a wartime airfield. Decommissioned, of course, privately owned since 1966. I've had a couple of messages in that just say, what's going to happen to the gliding club? If you're going to have wind turbines and solar panels, does this mean it's the end of the Andreas gliding club? Is it the end? There is a show jumping, an equestrian course around there as well. Is it the end of all this? Will it be just packed with solar panels? I mean, you have to say, if you're going to put solar panels anywhere on the Isle of Man, the north is probably the place to do it, because certainly up around Andreas it gets a tremendous amount of sunshine. You only have to drive over the mountain road in the fog to see sometimes the north of the island is just bathed in sunshine. This company, IPV FlexGen, have been at it now for over 10 years. They're Midlands based in the UK, in Leamington Spa, but they've developed projects across the Channel Islands as well. Privately funded. Now, that's the important thing. No public sector funding from the government or the taxpayer involved in this. So find out tonight at Andreas and see what you think. David's on now. Hi, David.
I just on that programme, it's going tonight. I can't go up the north. I'd love to, but I can't. I'm just wondering whether Manx Radio are going to be there. Just a quick question.
We certainly will be there, yes.
Good. And the other thing I was going to ask was, too, now the DOI, I presume it's them, it's at Laxey, taking away some of the stones and the sand and the shingle and stuff like that. I just wondered, A, did they have to have a licence to do that? And B, where is it actually going?
Well, funny you should say that. I've been off for a couple of days, and yesterday morning I spent a delightful morning sitting on the terrace at the shed in Laxey. And I was watching, it's Paul Carey, I think, who's got the contract. There's a bulldozer and there's a digger. And the bulldozer was bulldozing the shingle up and down, and the digger was at the harbour end at the moment, just getting rid of it and dumping it into the sea. So I presume the strategy is to get rid of all the pebbles off. I mean, there are many steps that go down to Laxey Beach, so presumably they're aiming to reopen the steps.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping that the minister and maybe the members of the department, what's left of them in the DOI, would actually go down and have a look and say to yourself simply, why couldn't we do that in Douglas and save ourselves millions of pounds? And quite rightly, people have been on saying we could recycle that stone because, as far as I know, there's no contaminants that come out of the harbour from Douglas. It's only like soil, mud.
Yeah, and again, nobody's yet answered the question, Dave. What happens if they do build this wall? When they build the wall, what happens when the sand builds up against it and you just move the problem along? It's just going to be. I can't see how this is going to. This is not a long-term solution.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking to myself, when the seaweed came over recently, it's still lying about all there, festering and stinking there. So if you build a bigger wall, isn't it just going to go on top of the wall? And what we're going to have to do, send beach buddies down there, and they have to litter pick all the seaweed and get it off the wall.
Well, they've already said if this wall isn't enough, they'll build an extension on top of the wall. So, bluntly, you're just going to be walking in shade for 500 metres from the Empress to the War Memorial. And then what happens? If that's not enough, what then?
Yeah, and the other issue I'd love to find out, because people keep asking all the time, who instigated it? Was it Thomas when he was the former minister? Because I know he's having a rant all the time. You listen to him on the Keys Question Time, or even on Timble Day now. He's definitely got a thorn in his foot, which is somebody needs to take it out of him, and then he needs to progress with some of the issues that we want doing. But I don't know what's going on down there at the minute. I don't know who the leader of the beach cleaning or whatever down at Laxey, or whether anybody Laxey commissioners would come on and say, were they consulted on what was actually happening, and if the stone is just getting pushed back down to the harbour to make it flat again, because that bulldozer that Carey's got is a mighty fine thing, and it does clear it better than the seaweed that's happening in Douglas now and again on piles.
Good. Okay. All right. Thanks, David.
See you, boy.
Cheers now. 24 minutes past 12. Have you got any thoughts on this? If you're in Laxey, it was a gorgeous morning, and I guess it's a gorgeous morning this morning in Laxey, and many children there just watching this, the guy in the boulder. And, of course, he was happily waving to all the kids who loved it. He was pushing the pebbles up and down Laxey beach, the upper part, and at the harbour end there was a guy in the digger who was moving the shale around there. So, well, presumably they're taking the beach back in Laxey, so you'll be able to walk down to the beach, where at the moment you kind of just walk out onto it. But really, regarding Douglas Beach, and I'll just open this as well. Now, I don't want to make it seem like I'm chasing Douglas Council, but they've decided not to come on. The leader of Douglas Council has decided, has rejected my invitations to come on Mannin Line just to talk about what's happening. There are many things happening in Douglas. There are many great things happening in Douglas, and some people are not terribly happy about other things. The fact that we talked about cyclists going. Now, we've talked about cyclists going up and down Strand Street for the past 4 years on Mannin Line, and recently they put out a press release saying, please don't do it. Last week, I was walking up and down Strand Street. Not only did I see 2 cyclists, I saw somebody skateboarding down Strand Street. Now, you just wonder what happens. So anyway, it's an open invitation to Douglas councillors, also to their PR representatives, Isle of Man Advertising. They pay Isle of Man Advertising to do their PR for them. You're more than welcome. Come on, Mannin Line, have a chat about what's happening in Douglas. Tell us the great stories that are happening in Douglas, but also just address, if you would, some of the concerns. Will the groins ever be put back on Douglas Beach? Once and for all, yes or no? What's going to happen with the beach? Is it your idea for this wall, or did the DOI tell you, or did you cook it up between yourselves? Who thinks it's a great idea? What's going to happen when the sand builds up? Is it going to be extended to 4, perhaps 5 feet high, blotting out the view from the promenade? Be nice to know what Douglas Corporation's view of the horse tram situation is, whether the councillors are lobbying to put the horse trams back to the sea terminal, bearing in mind the Seastra report talked about the fact that we're getting 60 plus cruise liners crammed with holidaymakers who want to see the Isle of Man. They get taken off the boat, either brought by a tug to the sea terminal, or if it's a smaller cruise liner, it ties up alongside. They walk through, and there's no horse tram. They have to get a bus from the horse tram to Castlemona Avenue and then get on the horse tram and trog along for a couple of 100 yards. Any thoughts on this? Richard's with us now. Hi, Richard.
Hi there, Andy. It's just about the MUA, really. We live down Laxey Glen Road, and we had a stick meter, for 20 years. Worked absolutely perfectly, not a problem. And then we seen the smart meter thing, and then they said we'd be coming to put it in. They came and put it in about a year and a quarter ago or something like that. Then the lad came back because it wasn't working, the signal on it, and put another aerial on it. And he said to me they'd been having a lot of trouble with them in certain areas, So anyway, we're tugging along, not a problem. Like, we're topping the meter up on the app, as you do. And lo and behold, a letter came through the door the other day saying that we owed them £348. No other letter to say, maybe you owe us 20 quid. They let it build right up. We've had no idea of this, no indication on it, no figures, no graphs you can look at, no data to tell you whether it is the right amount or anything.
Have you been using more electricity than usual?
Oh, yeah. Well, I think the electric's gone up. We know that. That's not the issue. It's just the fact that they let the hitters with this bill said it had to be paid in January. And sort of just after Christmas and what have you, it's not an ideal time, is it? You know what I mean? It's just like you don't know. I said to the lad, I says, can you give me some data? Send me some data to see exactly what's been going on. And he's humming and hawing and that, and they're supposed to be going to be sending this to us now. But I'm just wondering, has anybody else had any big bills put down on them?
What do you think? What do you think's happened, Richard?
Well, if the signal, the booster is right above us there. The big booster, it's got the aerials on it as well for all of Laxey. You can actually see it from our bedroom, and yet it can't pick up the signal. And there's a door right near the meter as well. You sort of couldn't really get. It's not like it's blocked by a big thick Manx stone wall, right? It's just glass to go through, sort of thing. But I'm just wondering if there's anybody else been hit with large bills. I phoned them yesterday, and the lad was very good. It's not his fault. It's obviously whoever's running the MUA. It doesn't seem to care about launching big bills. We've had actually no indication whatsoever other than this bill that came through a week ago. Nothing to tell you, say, oh, listen, you owe us 20 quid or 30 quid. We'd have paid it. Not a problem. But why hit people with a large bill like that? When it's totally unnecessary. And do we actually owe the money? Because we don't know. If that signal has not been working properly, how do we actually know what we're actually paying for? And
presumably, you don't want to be coughing up £350 at this time of year.
Well, it's just I don't know, really. It just doesn't make any sense.
The thing to do is, as you say, to drill down on this and find out where they get the figure from. And if you've not used it historically, if the pattern is that you're not using that amount of electricity, then something's wrong. Something's wrong somewhere. But certainly,
never had an issue. There was never an issue with the plug-in. You poke, you come and get your money up the co-op, put the stick in. And it was fine. It worked absolutely perfectly. You knew where you were. You knew how much you owed, or you didn't owe anything, did you? You had to put the money in to use the electric, and that was it. But it's the fact that it's like a grey area that you don't know. do actually owe that money because things have been mucked up so much.
Okay. All right. Well, you've had your say, so let's hope if anybody else has got problems like this, then please get in touch, and then we'll take it from there. Thanks, Richard.
I'm just wondering, Andy.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just wondering about them stones they're pushing back into the sea.
Yeah.
The sea is pretty powerful, as you know. Sure, that stones will just get pushed back up again, won't they?
Well, presumably let's hope they know more than you and me about it, and there is a strategy so Laxey Beach can be as it was. And obviously you're never going to beat the sea. Oh, yeah. You can't beat nature, so hopefully... let's...
No.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Cheers, Andy.
Good to hear from you. Thank you for that. And Chris is on now. Hi, Chris.
Hello, Andy. I'm really interested in the solar on Andreas airfield because I've just had a solar installation myself on my house. And I'm really, really pleased with it. I'm producing a kilowatt of electricity today, right now, and it's a winter's day. But I've got two restrictions put on me with the MEA. The first thing is the unit price, if I export any, in the summertime when I'm making loads, hopefully, if I export any to the grid, I get 9p a unit. If I import any, it's 30p a unit. So what my question is really is the people at Andreas, will they be restricted to 9p, the same as me? I wonder. And another thing, Andy, that's a real restriction on me, I can only ever export 2 kilowatts per hour to the grid. Now, I've lived here for 20 years now. If I can only export 2 kilowatts to the grid, how can we have a big solar farm on the airfield? They're not going to be restricted at all, I wouldn't have thought.
No, you wouldn't have thought so. Well, this is all part of the government's strategy for, a certain amount of renewables by 2030 and 2035. And there's obviously domestic production of this by people like yourself, Chris, but then there's also industrial, commercial production of electricity. But the trouble is that, I'm guessing it's going to take you an awful long time to get your money back from the solar installation, yeah?
I don't expect to make any profit whatsoever. Basically, what I think my solar system is doing is sticking 2 fingers up to the MEA, saying I've got my own power. Being polite.
Let's be even more polite, and let's just say, and it's true, anybody with a solar installation on their property can fairly safely put that cost on the price of the house if they sell the house. So basically, you're improving the property, so it's making the property worth more. But the trouble is, surely it's not this is not equal. It's not equitable, really. If you're only getting 9p, so basically you buy it at 30p per kilowatt hour, and you can sell at 9p per kilowatt hour. It's a fairly interesting contrast.
And the key thing is, I'm limited to 2 kilowatts per hour, which is nothing. That's 18p an hour I could send back into the grid, which is a total joke. So what I'm really disappointed with, I'm pleased that there is going to be a big solar farm there, or I hope there is. But it's an English company that will make it money. Me being somebody that's lived on the island for 20 years, and I'm really penalised. So that is very, very disappointing, isn't it? Do you not think?
Well, I think what has to happen, that the government's strategy is what it is. We all know what they're aiming to do. But the trouble is, they have to democratise it. They have to make everybody feel part of this rather than outside of it. We shouldn't be outside looking in. If they want everybody to be green and to be renewable, that's fine. But the incentive of 9p against buying it at 30p doesn't seem that equitable.
It is not, because what I can tell you is our installation was over 12,000 quid. I can afford it, so I'm not bothered. It's what I want to do personally. But then to think that we're penalised so much by the MEA, and then they're inviting an English company to do a big scheme on the airfield. Yeah.
So presumably your electricity bills are going to be way down now then?
I would expect to totally cover our electricity bills. I really would. I expect to make more in the summer and hopefully get a little bit back with this 2 kilowatts per hour that will cover the winter months. But today and yesterday, our electricity was totally covered by our installation, nothing imported from the grid. So I was delighted with that. I was really, really pleased with it. I'm very pleased with the whole system, what I've got at the moment.
Good. Okay, all right.
And thank you, Andy.
All right, I appreciate that. Chris, thanks for calling today. 23 minutes to 1. It is a gorgeous sunny day. If you've got brand new solar panels like Chris, you may stand forward and bow.
In our quest to remove all single-use plastic from our milk packaging, Isle of Man Creamery cartons, including the new 1.75 litre carton, are now 100% recyclable, made from sustainable and renewable sources. We're the first in the British Isles to offer these new large cartons, and you can pick them up now in local retailers or add them to your Isle of Man Creamery doorstep delivery. Plant-based cartons from Isle of Man Creamery. Better for the environment, better for you.
Walk through the northern lights into a land of ice and snow at Ramsey Garden Centre. Indoor and outdoor lights, a magical range of real and artificial trees, decorations, gifts and much more. Christmas at Ramsey Garden Centre, Albert Road.
Mike has got the conister feeling. Because despite his busy life, getting the finance to sort some home improvements was quicker and easier than he ever dreamt with Conister Bank.
You got me feeling good, got me feeling good, got me feeling good, got me feeling good, yeah!
Ooh, and not even Conister can help improve his singing. Apply online today at conisterbank.co.in and you'll get the Conister feeling too. All loans are subject to status, terms and conditions apply, early settlement fees apply.
The Isle of Man Symphony Orchestra's special gala concert will feature a feast of great music. Wagner's Prelude to Die Meistersinger, Beethoven's Fifth Piano Concerto with international soloist Yulia Chaplina, and Rimsky-Korsakov's Symphonic Suite Scheherazade. A brilliant afternoon of music in the Villa Marina Royal Hall on Sunday the 3rd of December at 2:30. Tickets on sale now.
Get ready for another winning weekend on Manx Radio.
And this weekend, courtesy of Ramsey Commissioners, you can win £200 to spend in Ramsey Town. Whether it's a garden centre, coffee shop or an eclectic store, you're sure to find a unique Christmas gift in Ramsey.
Visit manxradio.com and answer the competition question for your chance to win.
Then make sure you join us on Manx Radio Breakfast on Monday morning to find out if you're the lucky winner.
Make this your winning weekend with your nation station, Manx Radio.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
And Patrick's on now. Hi, Patrick.
Hi, Andy. It's just a question about the MEA debt, 120 million or something they borrowed for long-term debt.
Yeah.
I wonder whether the MEA are trying to call that back by not giving out contracts. Like that person who said they only allowed to put 2 megawatts back into the system. I wonder whether they're kind of holding on to what they got, the gas turbines and all that, and making them pay for the debt.
Oh, well, I'm sure that the the bond and the debt attached is at the back of all this, because remember the directors of the company will want to act accordingly. They can't change the rules. So if you like, the MUA or the old MEA is stuck with what it's got. It's got that hand of cards that it has to play. So really, at the back of this is Treasury and government, Patrick.
Yes. Yeah, I wonder whether can we pay the debt off earlier, or is there no possibility of that?
Well, that's certainly a question that we can ask, and but I mean that you're quite right. I mean the whole issue with the MEA bond and the MUA debt is probably at the back of this. Okay, all right. Thanks, Patrick.
Thanks very much.
Good to hear from you. 19 minutes before 1 on Manx Radio. I've got a note in from Rob, who just says, I'm a third-generation Manx person. I'm very proud of that. I'm increasingly upset by the state of the island and the amount of money that's being wasted on projects rather than on those who need it. We're paying for civil servants and MHKs who seem unaccountable for the mess that the island's in. Nobody has any responsibility for errors despite salaries and pensions that they're paid. There are civil servants in positions who I think should have been sacked long ago if they were in the private sector. They seem protected, and I don't know why, says Rob. The MHK seem to be led by the civil servants, like sheep being herded by sheepdogs. The MHKs no longer seem to be genuine when discussing a subject on the radio. Everything seems to be from a standard script prepared by civil servants. Whatever project is being discussed, big or small, always seems to be a huge overspend, no audit, no accountability, and the script is recycled. That's our money that's being spent without care. Current example is the approval of the promenade wall in Douglas to hold back the sea. We're not King Canute. We can't hold back the tide. If they're going to build a 1.5 metre high wall, surely the sand will build up on the seaside of the wall, as it does on all of our beaches, allowing the sea to come over the wall again. Surely there's a cheaper alternative, removing sand, putting infrastructure on the beach to direct the tides to a higher part of the wall. This is another example of a non-urgent project that will, without any surprise to any of us, run over budget at the expense of us all. Thanks for that. I'm in my 60s and I've seen a lot of good projects undertaken, but there seems to be more and more that are costing the earth and finishing without success. I'm sad for young Manx people who won't enjoy the same standard of living that I have because of money that's been misspent on chaotic projects instead of on our health and education services and giving them a helping hand to get onto the property ladder. Thanks again. Thank you, Rob. It's good to hear from you. Thanks for your words on that. Just going back to the... Juan's first with us. Hi, Juan. Good to hear from you. Lovely day.
How are you, Andy? Was that you skateboarding on your day off down Laxey Prom, was it?
On one leg.
On one leg. Oh, you're such a show-off, I tell you what. Just listening to Rob's text there that came into you about accountability, and from what David said before, this seems to be an ongoing trend of people are making these decisions which we're going to have to live with. But they're nameless, aren't we? I think we've said this a few times on here. We've got a very nameless government behind all this, and chief executives and whoever's making these decisions, and there's no accountability. And you get statements from the likes of Tim Krukall, who the other week said, well, lessons have got to be learnt, and we've learnt our lesson and we'll move on from this. Can't keep moving on from this all the time, and there's no accountability because people are just going to keep doing the same thing. So, I think maybe we should start putting some names to these grandiose schemes that are coming out.
Well, I mean, Juan, there are names. I mean, this is all in the public domain. If you go to gov.im, the government, if you go to the heading of departments, go to any department and it will tell you who's in charge. I mean, if you go to, let's just say, infrastructure, there it will see that the minister is Tim Krukall, the chief officer is Emily Curfey, political members Stu Peters and Dawn Kinnish as well. So they'll tell you who the chief executive is or the chief officer. Obviously, it doesn't drill down to tell you, who's in charge of what, because obviously, let's just take infrastructure. It's a massive thing. So harbours, airports, public transport, public estates, housing, it's got the flood management, it's got highway services. So at the moment, you can only see that Emily Curfey is the chief officer. Do you think there should be more people's names on there?
Oh, yeah, and I'm totally aware of that information, Andy. I'm sure, we do drill down into this stuff. And that's the problem, because that's where it stops. And I've said this to a few MHKs on here. If you're signing stuff off that you don't understand, then this is half the problem. If you're getting bad information from your chief executives or your people underneath that, I think it was what David said there, who's signing the stuff off and who's actually putting it up there to start with. And that's the bit that's been hidden, like we said there. You've got a few names at the top. But where's this information coming from? Where are these processes starting from? And who's there to take account and say, no, that doesn't seem right to me. People are just signing stuff off that they're not reading and not understanding. And I think I've mentioned this before on here. Moving on from that, the other point that I want to make, while you've been away, but the last couple of days, Head of News has been on, and everyone's been bashing the bishop again, haven't they? And I'm just trying to follow the trail on this, and without going down the religious aspect too much, because that's a topic in itself. Government predominantly meets to make laws. That's correct, isn't it? And these statutes and laws.
Yeah. I mean, the House of Keys will obviously debate them and what have you, and then it goes through Legco, and then that's it.
Yeah. But when these get enacted, they go to court. So the court procedure, I think, if you go to court, predominantly if you're going to court on a charge or anything like that, you swear on the Bible. I'm correct on that, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes. The Bible being a religious faith book. Of which faith would that be?
Well, it's a Christian faith.
It's a Christian faith. So whichever way people want to work this one, we are engrossed in religion, in our whole structure of government. So this thing about the bishop not having a say, etc., and that religion is being diluted. And of course it is. We see the bigger picture here of them wanting to change the way that we live in the world and society, and they are diluting religion without a shadow of a doubt. Whether that's good or bad is another thing. But we are involved in our legal structure based on the Christian book. And it's just the point that I'm making. I'm not getting into the religious side of it, whether it's good or bad, but we are engrossed in that. So when people say, oh, well, let's just get rid of the bishop's vote, it goes a little bit deeper than that, doesn't it? And again, with the Timble ceremony and everything else that's been mentioned.
Well, and this is it's an ongoing debate, really, in the Western world, in that obviously we are of a Judeo-Christian heritage, but the world is becoming more secular. I don't think anybody would argue that. You look at the attendances at church, and attendances at church are on a downward trend, certainly across a lot more than they are here. So this whole point of religion and how much a part it plays in our lives is for question. And obviously, I think that was the Douglas East MHK. Joni Farragher talked about that when they were trying to get debating whether prayers should go in front of keys.
Well, you see, people like Joni, as you've mentioned, Joni there, has her own little views on the green agenda and all the other stuff. So there's a certain a nucleus of people who are pushing this, and there's big power money behind this stuff that's getting pushed. And the dilution of religion, we can see the problems that's actually coming about now. Now, again, not getting into the religious thing too much, but the Christian vows are not really that bad. And there seems to be a push to maybe have another person to worship or another god. Maybe RuPaul seems to be the one that seems to be in mind with all our transgenderism and teachings of children in school. So maybe this big push is politically driven by very, very powerful people. And like I say, it's just something to bear in mind, without going down the religious route. But I'm sure someone will come on now and pull me up on it.
Well, just one thing I must point out as well. James drops a note in just to say a person who swears an oath in court can swear on the Bible or a non-religious affirmation as well. So I don't know whether other religious books are in court, but you can swear a non-religious affirmation. But there we are. All right, thanks, Stuart.
Take care, Andy.
Good to hear from you. I want to go to, this is Chris now. Hi, Chris. Hello, Chris. Hello, Chris.
Construction waste today.
Tells recycle for another day.
A builder skip or two.
Tells skips will bring to you.
From cardboard to green waste.
Tells recycle for another day.
Metals and plastics too.
Tells skips are right for you.
Skips are what they do.
We're the guys that hire one to you.
Call Tell Skips today.
677 137.
Ho, ho, ho! Happy Christmas!
Looking for a great night out? Something a little different? Then join us at Mannin Hotel as we pay tribute to some of the best music acts in the world. Saturday the 9th of December, that'll be the day. You can see our Buddy Holly tribute night. For only £195 per couple, enjoy a night of your favourite music, a 3-course a la carte dinner, plus overnight stay and breakfast. Book now. Visit manninhotel.im or call 602 555.
We all know someone who puts everyone else before themselves. Someone who deserves the ultimate treat of luxurious relaxation. So give that someone the perfect gift this Christmas with a voucher for the King's Spa Onken. Vouchers can be any value and redeemed against luxury spa days, relaxing treatments, or our range of beautiful products from Sorel, Clarins and Elemis. To purchase, simply visit kingspa.im and your voucher will be emailed to you within 24 hours. The King's Spa Onken. Click kingspa.im.
Greetings from the North. No, not the North Pole. I'm enjoying a day out in Ramsey. I've found friendly pubs and eateries. At the garden centre, Christmas trees, lights and decorations are sparkling. And as for shopping, well, let's just say that Mrs. Claus will love her Prezi. Come and discover Ramsey's independent and exclusive shops for clothing, jewellery, electrical goods, handmade gifts and more. For Christmas, Ramsey has it all. Brought to you by WS Messeron. Proud to be in Ramsey.
Manx Radio Breakfast.
And we're here every weekday with the morning's main stories.
It's such an important topic that it's important that we get it right.
Probably would have bought us 6 months.
They're more in tune with the people of the Isle of Man.
We'll bring you the weather for the day ahead.
You can see the wind streams getting much stronger.
The latest travel news.
And these lines are causing some major delays for you this morning if you're heading into Douglas.
Our daily quiz.
Sound bites.
And plenty of other topics.
Here's a slightly personal question. Face, bum or bit in the middle?
Manx Radio Breakfast.
Back tomorrow from 7:30.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
And Chris as well. We found Chris. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Andy. How are you?
Good, thanks. What's on your mind?
Right, I've just seen something incredibly funny, and I just wanted, in light of all these people talking about beaches, I've just been down to a cafe on Laxey Beach for my dinner, and there are 3 big machines down there. There's 2 diggers and a large sort of truck, for want of a better word. And what they're actually doing is moving stones. So I thought, oh, this will be good because they'll actually be moving them, somewhere else. But what they're actually doing is taking them from one side of the beach where the shed is and putting them on the other side of the beach where the harbour is. Bearing in mind there's a high tide as well, so they've got very little room to manoeuvre. But if they're on the back of a lorry, why don't they just take them away? They're going on about all this coastal overtopping. It's an ideal time now. If they want to go on about building a wall in Douglas, let's just try taking them away from Laxey, see what happens. If it works, take them away from Douglas.
All right. Well, we'll put down as bright idea of the day, Chris. Okay.
It's actually comical to watch them, Andy. It really is. They're filling one up and they're literally just driving from one end of the beach to the other and dumping like 10 tons at a time. And to me, that's just hilarious.
Oh, right. What did you have for lunch, by the way, Chris?
Cheese on toast, but don't tell the missus.
All right. Thanks for calling today. There's the diet gone. Thanks, Chris. Good to hear from you. And a note in WhatsApp just says, what about flights to Belfast? No flights to Belfast from January to March with EasyJet or Aer Lingus. Not a word about it. It's unreal. And a message in that just says... this is the note about we are predominantly Church of England society. Why do Joni Farragher and Laurie Hooper want the bishop removed? I think it's a catastrophic mistake, says Big John in Laxey. Wind farms, solar farms are the future, and one who disagrees needs to look to the future. That is the next generation. Just going back to the Northwest 200, says James. I used to go to the Northwest 200 regularly before COVID, either by plane or or boat. The few times I went by boat after the races was a mad dash to pack up, have food and dash to Belfast to get a boat between 1 and 3 a.m. We used to have a race between the teams coming back. If it's true there's no boat early Sunday after the racing, it's going to be putting the backs up of the race teams. Well, we wait to see what happens and whether or not there is a plan so that you can get to the Northwest 200 with ease and convenience. So we'll wait to hear whether the steam packet has it. It seems from earlier on today, from the caller you heard, that as it stands, there isn't. Going to be interesting tomorrow. Ewan Watterson, Speaker of the House of Keys, is on, and Michelle Haywood, both Russian MHKs. And bearing in mind that Ewan Watterson has kept a very, very close eye on government spending. He also said last week there was no evidence of success that the Sir Jonathan Michaels report, which created Manxcare, split DHSC and Manxcare, DHSC being political, Manxcare being day-to-day delivery. He said there was no evidence of success. Well, if you want to talk to Ewan Watterson or to Michelle Haywood, then tomorrow is the day. Text, email, call and WhatsApp. Thanks for dropping in today. It's good to hear from you. Enjoy the rest of your sunny Wednesday.
WINT